to speak on to mothers on a Mother's Day or fathers on Father's Day or however that goes. There are times within the church, like however, there are significant roles within the family, right? And significant roles for each one of us to fulfill by God's grace and His calling in our life. And one thing that I think we do well to appreciate are those opportunities that are provided us throughout either a calendar that is secular that we then follow, or a church calendar that then we also follow that provides opportunity to pause and address things that stand right before us. I don't know the next book that we will do exposition on that will provide us with an excellent opportunity to isolate mothers alone. So maybe instead of concerning ourselves with what book of exposition will provide that, we'll just take Providence, since we're all buying greeting cards on a national holiday at some level. We'll just receive that Providence and take a moment to do what is proper, and that is address a critical and indispensable role within everyone's life, and that is their mother. So that's what we'll do. As far as I would open with just saying this is for Adrienne. Last year at Mother's Day, last night we were discussing this, and I said, "Oh, that's going to be great. Oh, I'm going to be able to be at church tomorrow." Oh, good, because last year I wasn't able to be there because we went to Ladies' Tea, and Claire got sick at Ladies' Tea. And it was last year she came home with 100-something temperature or something, so she just had a virus at that time. So then we were like, oh, great, so you'll be able to be at church tomorrow. Oh, that's great, that's great. So anticipating being here, she is not. And it was only one desire that the children were to provide a gift for Mom this year. And it was that they would stay in their beds when they're put to bed until we see them again tomorrow. That was it. Like if I make it from here to there with no interruptions, that would be a well-received gift. So both those things came crashing down last night. Claire came into our room, 2 a.m. I threw up all over my bed. Same culprit. 2 years in a row. I told Adrienne, this is a Mother's Day message for you, is how you and your daughter are going to relate. This is laying the groundwork for the tense mother-daughter relationship right here. She only wanted one thing, to not come in, so she came in. It's the same individual, and she's not at church this year either. Maybe next year. So we're holding out for Abraham by Providence, that God would grace her opportunity to see all of you and be here on Lord's Day of when we perhaps will yet again take time to address our mothers. If I could begin with you then on a more serious note, as we begin our time together considering this providential gift that we're given in our calendar, at least as far as we can account for this year and this moment in time, is we will address our mothers. I start by saying this: the home is a primary educational agency. The home is a primary educational agency. I'm not about to give an exposition on homeschooling. I'm not. That's not how I roll. And it is there, in the home, that the foundations of civilized behavior and general excellence are laid. This is just biblical worldview. I hope to provide a defense for that from the text. But this is where we begin. The home is a primary educational agency, and it is there, in the home, that the foundations, think of your little ones. And I'm kind of using the little ones, right? What else do moms think of but little ones all the time? So, here again this morning. But think about the stewardship and the importance of being a mother. When it is upon you, what are your obligations? So this is more than kind of, just to pause and think. What lies before you as a mother? If I can prove, the home is a primary educational agency, and it is there that the foundations of civilized behavior and general excellence are laid. The son learns from his parents. is already beginning to lose his rawness. And beginning to present a pleasing presence to the world. That is, what's going on out here is an after from what's going on within there. The son who learns from his parents is already beginning to lose his rawness. He's beginning to lose it because he's learning. And he is then positively presenting a pleasing presence to the world. That's what you want for your little ones. This is representative, I hope, that we will see together of a biblical worldview of the family unit and the raising of our little ones. On this Mother's Day, mom will be accentuated in this equation as she plays a significant and pleased. I think we oftentimes think of the men in the house or the men in the home, typically in conservative evangelical circles like this. Reformed communities. It would be the accent is placed upon the fatherly role, which is great, which is proper, which is fitting as we look at the biblical text. It's right. But then oftentimes, Dan kind of spoke of earlier, it can become moms can move to secondary or no dairy. And dads are all airy. And so what we want to do is we want to recognize the biblical text and see that moms do serve. And this is kind of encouragement to moms. I'll explain my goals in just a minute. Moms play a significant and the biblical text would show us an indispensable role in the family unit. And then putting these two statements together in teaching excellence to the children. If it is that in the home is the primary place where they'll learn the foundations of civilized behavior and be called to excellence. If it is in the home, mom stands in an indispensable role for them to learn excellence. There's a way that the biblical text will give, and this is like 55, 60 minutes from now. Biblical text will expose that dad will speak. And the equation is dad's speech will go out and it will have an effect as mom's instruction comes along. Together, complementary. That without which dad speaks out. And again, I can't speak to all the complexities of what about a home where it's structured like this. That's not my goal this morning. So just assume with me the family unit at this point, and I hope for those that are representative of that family structure unit can hear a word of encouragement. But dad speaks out, and then mom's instruction comes alongside, and they complementarily work together. So as dad's speech falls flat in some degree without mom's instruction. Mom plays an indispensable role in the family and the teaching of excellence to the children. Now to my goal. My goal this morning is to encourage mom in her role as a primary transmitter of wisdom to her children. So if you're considering having children, perhaps before us there's a large congregation here that should be considering having children. Let's just assume that. There's a large section of you in here, in my opinion. Then there's some who have the children, and then there is some who desire it, and we would join with you, as Dan had mentioned before, that the Lord would see fit. My goal then is to, for those who do have these little ones or aspiring to have these little ones, we would join together and we would recognize it's not just cool. Many of us by now that we have kids, we know it's very uncool. So it's not like a cool idea. If you do it for the cool factor, don't. It's not cool. It's called work. So when we think of it, that's how we undertake this gracious task that the Lord has provided us. And that is that it isn't just go on autopilot and see where the plane crashes or burns. The idea is Mom is for this Mother's Day, hopefully to be encouraged and urged from the biblical text to take serious her work as a transmitter of wisdom to her little ones. It's an aggressive role. And it is a glorious one. The process that we will follow, if I could, so far, from what I have introduced, if I could help and strengthen what I have suggested to you about the home, about mom's role as a primary transmitter of wisdom. That is your calling before the Lord to your little ones, to transmit wisdom. My process for achieving this is in 3 points. Number 1, I want to establish from the biblical text, as we look at Proverbs, we're going to kind of work our way through various statements within Proverbs. There is a structure to Proverbs, but we're going to work within a structure of chapters 1 through 9. Now, as we look at the book of Proverbs, we're going to hopefully establish, number 1, the need for wisdom. And I think that's something that whether we're a male in here or a female in here, a mother or a non-mother, dad or non-dad, we can all, as believers, wrestle through this text and be refreshed yet again on our need for biblical wisdom. Period. There is a need, critically for each one of us, to gain wisdom. And have a life that is marked by skillful living. There's a need for all of us. So we'll kind of generally start with number 1, the need for wisdom. Secondly, if I can create out of the biblical text that there is, if we can show from the biblical text that there's a need for wisdom. Secondly, then it would naturally follow we ought to describe what wisdom is. So that we create a vacuum, there is a need for wisdom. Well then, tell me what wisdom is. Okay, so you need it, and this is what it is. Point number 2, this is what wisdom is. And then thirdly, okay, so if I have a need for wisdom, and now I know what wisdom is, I need this wisdom to meet my need for it. I need the two to converge. I need wisdom because I need it, and I have this vacuum, and I want this bridge to be built between my need and its provision. How will this bridge be built? How will I become from what I am in a simple way to one who is marked by biblical wisdom? How will I go from here to here? How will this occur? By Mom. In other words, it needs to be transmitted. It needs to be taught. It needs to be learned. I won't just walk out the door and intuitively pick up on skillful living. I will go by bump and bruise, which are inevitable. Life is risky. Life is hard. Life is difficult. Many bumps, many bruises. All of us recognize it. So it's not like a life without or a life with. It is how to manage risk by grace. How to manage bumps and bruises. Where's my strength during my bruising? How do I receive this beating rod? How do I conceptualize life's complexities? I need skill. How will it come to me? On this Mother's Day, from Mom. It'll come to you from heeding Mother's instruction. I will move from the biblical category, being simple, to a young boy, to a young daughter, young child of wisdom. So let's begin. Number 1, then, the need for wisdom. And I want to show 3 texts. And a little bit different how we're going to handle it this morning, but I just want to show you what was read for you is, I think the text ended at verse 7, or maybe so, or when Todd read 1 through 9. 1 through 9 was read for you. And I want to kind of just look at some basic observations from 3 texts about the need for wisdom. I know you're with me, but it's certainly how the Spirit will take what we know and translate it to the heart so that there is empowering life change is by the text of Scripture. So I just don't want to assume that like we all would right now save ourselves 35 minutes and go, we all need wisdom. Great, let's move on to point number 2. No. Because we might know it, but we need to really, by grace, through the power of the Spirit, believe by faith that we need it. And that comes through hearing, through the text. So let's look at the text. 3 of them. Number 1, I'll kind of read 1 through 7, and then come back and make some basic observations, and we'll move to text number 2. What I'm hopefully establishing is, number 1, there is a need for each of us to be people of wisdom. Number 1, verse 1, rather. The Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction. Again, this text was read, but I want to read and then come back, just 1 through 7, and make some observations. To know wisdom and instruction. To understand words of insight. To receive instruction in wise dealing, in righteousness, justice, and equity. Those are significant terms there. Verse 4, to give prudence to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the youth. Let the wise hear and increase in learning. The one who understands obtain guidance. To understand a proverb and a saying, the words of the wise and their riddles. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools, they despise wisdom and instruction. Out of the category of a need for wisdom, as he begins, he's writing this, jotting this out, because there is already fundamentally received, there is a need to transmit wisdom. This is what I'm undertaking, to help you be people marked by wisdom. I'm writing it out because it needs to be received and perpetually taught. So, what is it that we need? Number 1, look at verse 2. We need, if we could jot this down, I wrote 4 things out of these 7 verses that prove 4 aspects of what we need from wisdom, what wisdom provides. Because we need it. That's why he's transmitting it. He's teaching it out. He's inscribing it down so that we will then grow and learn. What is the first one? Number 1, it's basic. General wisdom. General wisdom. It's right there in verse 2. This is what you need to know. You need to know wisdom. You need to know instruction. To understand words of insight. That's pretty broad, right? Right, exactly. You need broad, basic skill in living. You need wisdom. You need increase in understanding. General wisdom is the need of the hour for every single person in here. And I think we all can personalize that in the various difficulties that we individually, more individualistically face throughout our life. Right now, each one of us could write down on a chalkboard 5 things that are ailing us as far as we would like to know better about these things for us. 5, right? I mean, do you want to know if you're going to, your car's going to make it home? Maybe that's one of yours. Hey, jot it down on the chalkboard. You have these challenges stand before you that really become to come to weigh on your heart, weigh on your mind, weigh on your relationships, these things that you would say of yourself, I need wisdom. How to handle this, how to maneuver this. Exactly. How will you get it? Transmitting it, learning it. Those who teach it to you, you who teach it to others. The biblical text that is provided this very hour to know wisdom and instruction. General skill in living, we all need it. Number 2, second concept right out of these first 7 verses is we need to be wise in our dealings. That is, in our conduct toward others as God does require. Look at verse 3. You need to receive instruction in wise dealing. Notice what God requires in your dealing. It doesn't intuitively just come out. You know what? I'm going to deal, verse 3. I'm going to deal with my neighbor in righteousness, as God requires. Justice and equity. No, you're not. You need, according to this text, to receive instruction on how to deal wisely, so that you will deal with others the way that God requires. You need to learn that. Your little ones, they need to learn how to deal with each other and with you, and you with them. In wise dealings, how do I treat my child? Righteously. What would God require of me as mom to deal with this little infighting? Justice. Or 3, what else is here that God would require in my behavior and in transmitting it to my children? What is it God requires of us in our dealings with others? Equity. Oh, I'm always righteous, just, and equitable. No, you're not. You need to learn it. You need to learn it. Skill in living. And if mom and dad need to constantly be lifelong learners by exposing their heart to the text of Scripture, how much more little ones? How much more are we responsible for transmitting this to them? It is a huge, indispensable role that mom does serve in the raising and rearing of the little ones. Well, dad comes home, slams the door, and tells her how it's going to be. And that goes out like this. In a complementary role, where wisdom is being achieved, dad is teaching, hearts are hearing, mom is instructing, growth is being had. Complementary. We must learn wise in our dealings. Number 3, out of this text, just very briefly, verse 4, prudence is to be learned. It's not intuitive. That is competence in living. So you need to be competent, each one of us, look at verse 4, to give prudence to the simple. This is what I want my little ones to achieve in life. This is what I want to shepherd them in. Prudence in their overly simplistic manner of living. Knowledge and discretion in their youth. We would speak of prudence as, again, competence in living. I want to be competent. To know up or down, left and right, basic compass components. You know, this is the way to get there, this is the way to get there, this is the way to get there. And we're talking morally. Not like how to get the giant eagle. You go here, and if anybody stops you, tell them you're talking morally. Prudence, a compass for competent living. They need that. I'll figure it out. They won't. Take seriously, soberly, your stewardship of grace as a mother to little ones. They must learn it, and they will learn it from mom. Number 4, increased appetite for learning. You see that right there in verse 5, and this applies to each one of us. Again, each one of these I hold by grace, you're applying to your own soul, as you would if you cannot be this also. By grace, through the power of the Spirit. If you are not seeking these, you cannot transmit them. Each one of us must be these students. Verse 5. Let the wise hear and increase in learning. Do you see that? How that works? You increase in your learning. You hear and you add it to what you've heard. You're increasing in your learning. This is the statement of being what we would say more popularly being a lifelong learner. It comes from somewhere. From the Bible. That is competence in living. It's not like, well, if I could teach them this morning skill in living, tomorrow I could give them what God requires. Wednesday is tight. Maybe we'll bump competence to living back to Thursday. Maybe on Sunday they'll hear in Sunday school something about being a lifelong learner. This is a mark of the people of God perpetually. That's what we are. We're students of Scripture, growing by grace in wisdom, skill in living, conduct towards others, sometimes good, sometimes bad, sometimes it needs correction. We need to be competent, growing in our competency of applying the text to life, skill in living. And we need to teach our little ones all the same. They need to be lifelong learners. The summary of these 4 points would be this. This must be, every one of these ideals of wisdom, these applications of skill, must be explicitly and systematically taught. And not by their friends, but by mom and by dad. They will not be picked up on. They must be taught. Text number 2, underneath point number 1, the need for wisdom. Text 2, if you jump over there as they continue this point in the discussion here with the young son. Text 2 is Proverbs 3, 13 through 15. I have to, my Bible is marked out in a particular way through these passages. And since for our home, when mom goes down, when the plane goes down, there's a huge explosion. And it just turns, not for me on it's Mother's Day, but yeah, kind of for me. I suffer. So I came without my Bible. And so I'm borrowing another one, and I forgot another book. And it's just, hey, I've got 2 sons who are still alive, and they're in the building. I just got to get them home. And so I'm borrowing the copy, and so I might miss where I'm at. Its format is even different. Anyway, we're here in Proverbs 3. Looking at verse 13 through 15, is he's laboring the point of how we need to consider we have a deep need for skill in living. We are a needy people, and we need to hear God's wisdom that we might be a skillful people, and how much more so the little ones whose hearts are completely untamed, completely untaught, completely raw before us as our stewardship. Verse 13, blessed is the one who finds wisdom. So now the blessing is explicitly placed upon the one who finds it, and the one who gets understanding. So he's speaking to the little one, let's suggest. This is the way we're instructing. Blessed is the one who finds wisdom and the one who gets understanding. For the gain from her is better than gain from silver. Here is your need comment. Do you see it? He's speaking in terms of a value judgment. If this value judgment holds, it requires what is prior. There's a need, such a need, that he is laboring to you to consider it as a value judgment in your life. The gain from her value judgment is better than gain from silver. And her profits are better than gold. She is more precious. Do you see how he's speaking? You have to receive this from me. This is mom's child. This is mom for little ones. She is more precious to learn of her, to learn skill in living, wise judgment that God requires in your dealings with others, ethics. This wisdom is more precious to you than jewels. Nothing you desire, and the young ones desire a lot, just like mom and dad. And he says to us, nothing you desire can compare with her. A value judgment. In some, we would suggest out of this text, you have a need. Little ones have a need. The need is wisdom. And the value judgment from the text of Scripture for you, considering your life lived before the face of God and your little ones, is this: wisdom is superior to all forms of material wealth. All forms. Well, it's really belaboring the point if it's gold or if it's silver or if it's jewels. Right. All forms of material wealth. Her gains and her returns and her profits for your wise dealings with others, your ethical behavior, your skill in living, is a greater return than jewels locked up somewhere or the experience of gold and silver. Wisdom is superior. So now consider, we're starting with the need, and we're hearing general wisdom, wise dealings, prudence, competence, and being a lifelong learner, setting up patterns for excellence, setting these patterns up for the little ones to learn them by not just figuring it out, hearing it taught. They're setting up these patterns, and then you're saying that they're like, I want this, 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 I want this. And you say, you want wisdom. You want wisdom. And they're like, I really don't, I just want to buy that. I want you, in fact, to buy that. Right. So it takes creativity, right? It takes work. It takes massage. It takes, like, right now there's a ray of light, and this little eye that's looking at me, they're actually hearing one word at a time that I'm saying to them right now. Strike while the iron's hot! And then, lights go out again. You might have 12 seconds for them. Make those 12 seconds count. Because they're gone for, like, maybe 2 more months. And then you'll have a little burst of light, and they're actually inquisitive, and they're ready to hear what you have to say. Stroke while the iron's hot. Say it because it's gone in a moment, like a vapor. They're in, they're out, they're in, they're out. But the burden is always the same for mom and dad. To see those opportunities and strike for skill in living, categories of excellence. Because they're going to pick up on anti-biblical ones. And you as mom and you as dad must guard and guide their heart to hear. I know that seems awesome. But God's wisdom for you is far richer of a return. It's hard to make that connect. And I don't mean to oversimplify. Like, oh, you just go on and say it to them? No, of course not. It never works. It is a pattern you are working to establish by grace. Forever. And it is a pattern that you're laying out for them to receive by grace. Forever. This takes work, but we believe it to be true when the text does tell Mom, wisdom is superior to all forms of material wealth. And Mom says, I believe that by faith to be true. I don't want to jump to my conclusion. Text number 3. Text number 3 is Proverbs 4. Proverbs 4, 5 through 7. Let's just take a brief look at 5 through 7 of Proverbs and the consideration of the need for wisdom. And we'll just read the verses real quick. 5, get wisdom. There's an easy one. Get wisdom. He furthers it. Get insight. You see how he's building off of what we need based on chapter 1. So he just flat out tells you, get it. Get insight. Do not forget and do not turn away from the words of my mouth. There's mom, there's dad, there's the family unit teaching and laboring hard to provide biblical excellence to the children. Prayerfully, Lord, open up their hearts to actually receive what we're teaching. Tell them, don't turn away from the words of my mouth. Verse 6, do not forsake her. The return is huge. She will keep you. Love her. She will guard you. The beginning of wisdom is this. Think of your little one right here. Where do I start teaching wisdom? How do I teach them about wisdom? Here's the beginning of wisdom. How about this one? Get it. There's the beginning of wisdom. Get it. Be a mom, be a dad, be a family who's committed to getting it. Hey, you're on a wise pathway because many people think it's overrated. The wise one considers God's world. We live within it. He has instructions. Wisdom will be found by following the instructions by grace. That's wisdom. Right there, you're a person of wisdom. You believe you need to get wisdom. And then he concludes in verse 7. And whatever you get, whatever it is, you're getting many things. Get this insight. Get wisdom. I would summarize that text this way. Wisdom is the prime value of life. Speaking in tiers. According to the Bible text, wisdom is the prime value. It is to be gained here in this text. It is to be gained at the cost of everything else. So if that is true, okay, so look with me just briefly. If this stands, verse 7, get wisdom. Whatever you get insight. Then I conclude this way. Wisdom is to be gained, according to this text, at the cost of everything else. Everything. How are you structuring your own family unit? Time, talents, finances, ambitions, ethics, worship, giving, care, encouragement. How are you categorizing them? What percentages of time are you seeking in each one of those categories? It's got to be a value judgment. It has to be. The text is saying it is a value judgment. How do you know your values? Well, you'll be able to see them. It's an age-old issue, right? It sounds cliche, but it's true. What you spend your time on, right? There it is. There's your value judgment being lived out. The text is saying, at the cost of everything in the calendar, everything, get wisdom and insight. That's a compass, right? It's a reoriented. I need to stop spinning. Look at the calendar. There it is. This is what we're doing. As a family, here's my day with my little ones. Here it is before me. Okay, get wisdom. Here's what you hear from the biblical text. Get wisdom at the cost of everything else. So you mean that if I have time, Dad's going to come home, or however the family is structured, there's no food and all the dishes are dirty, but the child has an inkling towards wisdom, one more degree than they had at the beginning of the day. Are we living wisely? Yeah. I think that's fair to say. Whatever you get, get wisdom. To those of us without little ones, at the end of the day, my schedule just twisted and broke and shattered into pieces. And there's still responsibilities that need to be done. I'm not suggesting we cast off everything and say, hey, I'm just going to learn to live wisely. Well, living wisely can get your work done. So there's an issue there. In your own mind and heart, by faith, is a prime value judgment, the prime value judgment for you in your endeavors. Wise living. I conclude this way, point one, to the need of wisdom. Wisdom is an unquestionable first in any order of priorities. It is an unquestionable first. I hope you feel convinced by this real cursory treatment of a few passages. It is an unquestionable first in any order of priorities. She should determine the structure of a man's life, giving it form. That's what your day takes place. That's how your money takes place. That's how your encouragements, your outreach, your time spent, your investment in relationships. How do I judge how much time to invest? By wisdom. Wisdom gives form and proportion to establishing the scale of my priorities and a right distribution of my emphasis. That's what wisdom will do for me. Whatever else you get insight and get wisdom. How do you become wise? Get wisdom. It is the prime value. Well, then obviously, if I have argued sufficient to this point to convince you there's a need for wisdom, biblically, can I join with you to point number 2, the nature then of wisdom? What is it? Tell us what it is, if it is to be an unquestionable first in the ordering of my priorities. The nature of wisdom, number 2. What is wisdom? Chapter 3, verse 5 through 7. Verse 5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. And you've heard these texts. You've probably memorized them or maybe have them in your house somewhere. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make straight your path. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord, and turn away from evil. What is wisdom? Here you could look earlier in the description of chapter 1, I think it's verse 7, where you go, fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom and knowledge, and the fools despise it. Here I'm drawing on chapter 3 to expand what wisdom is and what wisdom is not. Here, according to this text, 2 things. 1, what wisdom is, according to this passage. Okay? Don't be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. What then is wisdom? I need it. What is it? Wisdom is that which transcends human intelligence and cleverness. It transcends that. You don't need to be a calculating individual. To outsmart the next person is not to be wise in your dealings. It's not a race to intelligence. What is it? It transcends human intelligence and cleverness. How so? Because it is rooted in trust in God. It is rooted there. You trust in God. That is not a race to the intelligence. Who can outwit the next? Who can teach their kids to be calculating? Maybe you heard of this a year ago or so, probably by now, on 60 Minutes. There was one of the 60 Minutes was covering the redshirting process. I maybe referred to this before. The redshirting process. Normally you're thinking, oh, okay, so somebody's on a scholarship to play sports and they're being redshirted their first year in order to give the coach enough time to play with them regularly through their full amount of years at college. No, redshirting applies now to like kindergartners. And you can probably go online and you ought to watch that little episode, that segment, and then think wisely, biblically about that and see pros and cons there. Just challenge worldview. And that is the redshirting process, if I remember correctly, is you want your child to be, again, it's a wise choice because you want your child to be statistically better, more clever, and sharper than the next kid in his class. So what they're doing now is redshirting them. That means that you hold your child back, which Adrienne always teases me about how I was held back by my mother who loved me. She didn't let me in kindergarten right away because she loved me. Wanted me around another year. Not Adrienne. She was brushed off the class the day she was eligible. So she says it's for brain power. I say it's because my mother loved me. So I'm loved. So the strategy, but it used to be like what my wife tries to do to me, give a stigma attached to the fact, like you were left behind, so you graduated when you were 18, I graduated when I was 7, whatever that is. It used to be, you don't want to hold your kid back, you want to, show how they can do, they're ready for the world. Now the strategies do hold back. Because statistically it's proving out that they tend to be the captain of the football team because they're bigger, stronger, and faster and smarter than the kids in their class because they're older by a year and a half. Then they're going to be the ones who are going to score higher on their tests because they had a year at home in order to be able to, now they're taking a test that's a year below them. Dominating. Then they go to play sports, like, yeah, baseball, he's cranking the ball harder, throwing it harder, faster than all the other kids. Well, then the coaches are going to see him, and he's going to get a scholarship because he's playing against kids a year or 2 years below him. Redshirt your child for their advancement. This is a worldly form of wisdom. Because what we're saying is wisdom is not, according to this text, is not that which corresponds to human intelligence and cleverness. That is not wisdom. However you feel about it. Redshirt. Biblical wisdom is that which transcends human intelligence. And what I would say is redshirt cleverness. It transcends that. For it is rooted not in self, but in a trust in God. If my child is to throw the ball harder than every other second grader out there, I guess that's what God has for him. And if he doesn't know where first base is, but he hits it and he always runs behind home plate for some reason, either way, I trust in God with the life of my children, and I'm going to guide them in biblical wisdom. This is what wisdom is according to this text. What it is not then, it's corresponding what it is not. Again, maybe a comment here. Wisdom is not amoral pragmatism. Getting back to cleverness. Wisdom is not amoral pragmatism, which appears to be wise in the eyes of the individual. Right? Didn't it expressly say that? Do not be wise in your own eyes. We must teach our little ones. Mom, teach the little ones. Wisdom is not for the people of God amoral pragmatism, which appears to be wise in the eyes of the individual. But how will they learn this? How will we learn it? It must be explicitly and systematically taught and received. That is the structure of biblical wisdom. It is that which transcends human intelligence and cleverness and is rooted in a trust in God. This brings us to our third and final point, if we could join together then, in the transmission of wisdom. The transmission. So now, as we land this plane, it is from a need for wisdom. We all need it. To know wisdom and get understanding. What it is not simple cleverness and outsmarting the kids their age. Or us, outwitting, outmaneuvering people our age. It is deeply rooted in a trust in God. How do I take my little ones? How do I take my own heart by grace and receive wisdom? Wisdom must be transmitted. Look with me at chapter 1, verse 8. It must be transmitted. And in fact, that's what we're doing this very hour, each one of us, by hearing the word of wisdom, the biblical text. It must be transmitted. That's why we're here. We get to focus yet again on little ones. Verse 8, hear, my son, your father's instruction. Hear it, and forsake not your mother's teaching. This implies that father is instructing and mother is teaching. Chapter 4, verses 1 through 4. Here it is again. Hear, O sons, a father's instruction. Be attentive that you may gain insight. For I give you good precepts. Do not forsake my teaching. And look at his own experience. Here it is, what I'm trying to labor, even though mom's not explicitly present right here in this text, the larger point is at stake right now. We must transmit wisdom. Look at how he's speaking to his son. That is this picture of a father-son relationship in 1 and 2. And look at verse 3, how he speaks of his own experience. Wisdom must be transmitted. When I was a son with my father, tender, the only one inside of my mother, he taught me and said to me, let your heart hold fast to my words. Keep my commandments and live. Do you see? Wisdom must be generationally transmitted. The text, my father talked to me. I don't have time. You better make time. My father spoke to me when I was a boy. And I'm speaking to you as your father because you are my son. And you need to know wisdom and understanding. Wisdom must be transmitted. To mom, there is no one more suited than you. No one more suited than you to lovingly teach wisdom to your children. Daycare is not the place. They're not as suited as you are. I'm not making a larger argument there and an underlying, I got you there with this other comment. I'm not even making a comment there, other than what I am saying is the positive. Mom, you are most suited to instruct lovingly your children in the way of wisdom. You. Not even the teacher here. Or anywhere. Or TV. Do you notice that is the way the television goes? There's a little cartoon in our house the kids like to watch. It is called Doc McStuffins. I don't know if you ever heard of that or not. This little girl has a pretend life where she is a doctor over stuffed animals, Doc McStuffins. So the stuffed animals come to life when she's around, and then what ails them is what she heals and works on and so forth. And they love it. They love to watch this. And so we watched it with them. And there's an interesting mark between when you and I were watching cartoons and what is at stake in the game now. Because of the family unit failing to do basic correspondence to wisdom and instruction, television has taken its place. So now it's not like storytelling It's instruction. No one is better suited to instruct lovingly, graciously, and godly wisdom to your children than you. I mean, a family is so dumb now. We don't even know what our children need as far as if they ought to eat this or if they ought to eat that every meal of the day. We need the cartoons to tell us. You're supposed to be eating, and then they do a dance, and then the fruit's doing whatever it's doing because they need to learn it from somebody because mom and dad are not doing it. So don't tell a story, give instruction. Mom and dad are going to do whatever they're doing. They're going to turn it off right and leave it alone. I need more vegetables. Who told you that? TV. However it goes, there is no one more suited than you over your own little ones to lovingly teach them biblical wisdom. This is the final portion, and the final comment here is mother is critically involved in transmitting. Look at the biblical text one last time just to convince you that mother is critically involved. It's not just dad, it's mother. Verse 8, hear my son, your father's instruction, and in this parallel statement, forsake not your mother's teaching. So dad's instruction goes out, but mother's teaching also combined in mom and dad's efforts. Verse 9, this teaching from dad and mom will be a graceful garland for your head, penance for your neck. This is what your child will have in a return if mom and dad are teaching. The last text there at 6:20, just to see that mom is critically involved here. 6:20, my son, keep your father's commandment and forsake not your mother's teaching. My final comment is this, mom. You serve an indispensable role within the family of communicating their greatest need. They need wisdom. And the source of our wisdom, the New Testament does instruct, the source of our wisdom is Christ. They need Him. And they will not intuitively pick up on that. Or from Dr. Stuffins. She will lead them there. You, mom, they need Jesus, who is our source, our life. He is our wisdom. Be dependent upon Him in your needs for wisdom. Serve your children to Him for wisdom. Let's pray. Father, we just ask that you would empower mom in her hard work and then her duty of instructing and teaching wisdom, skill in living that is requiring the power of Christ, wise in their dealings with their friends and with their life as they go on to the workplace as they get older. There's a foundation that must be laid to look to Christ in our dealings, who is righteousness, who is Himself equity, who is Himself justice. We must look to Jesus and follow obediently by the power He supplies your word, that we might obey your precepts. Be a people growing, lifelong learners of wisdom. Strengthen our mothers. We thank you for the children, the stewardship, the gift of your goodness and your grace to our families with the little ones. Thank you for our mothers, who are a gift, a grace to all of us to experience the love of a mother, the instruction of a mother. It will be a garland around all of our necks that keep us from sinners who entice us. If we look to mom, if we look to dad, Lord, strengthen the families of Redeemer, and each one of us, Lord, individual Christians, Strengthen us to obey your precepts, to look to Christ when we have failed, and ask him to empower our obedience. In his name we do pray. Amen.